Welcome, everyone. There's not much in the realm of wrestling to talk about tonight. So, we're going to make a sharp pivot and talk about Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson has the opportunity to bring America back. We've been looking at the 80s as some halcyon days of, Predator, Terminator, Cobra, alpha males, masculine men with muscles, took no guff. Mike Tyson is from that era. And now we have the opportunity to fully come back, to fully rewind the culture for one more gasp of 80s muscular masculinity. One more time. This is a real fight, as far as I know. It's probably a work, but Mike Tyson is fighting Jake Paul on November the 15th. As far as we know, it's a real fight. It might be a work, might not be a work. Mike Tyson is 58 years old. Jake Paul is 27. Jake Paul has fought no major opponents. He's fought mostly washed up MMA fighters, and he still managed to lose one of those fights. Mike Tyson has not defeated a credible opponent in over 20 years. Over 20 years. His last victory, I believe it was in 2003. He fought Roy Jones a couple of years ago, I think 4 or 5 years ago. It was during the pandemic, so it was 3 or 4 years ago. And that was a draw, and it was an exhibition fight to begin with. Now Mike Tyson is going to fight a legitimately sanctioned match in Texas against Jake Paul. This is going to be quite something. I haven't really been following it. I was following it a lot closer back in July before Mike had his ulcer and the fight was canceled. Now I'm just kind of looking at it, thinking to myself, do we? I really don't. It's going to be an entertaining fight, I believe. As far as I know, Mike Tyson is going to get paid $20 million for this fight, while Jake Paul is going to make $40 million. Well, he's the co-promoter as well, so that should be noted. His most valuable promotions is co-promoting the fight with himself as the main event against Mike Tyson, while he's making twice as much as Mike Tyson, even though Mike Tyson is the name. That's what everybody's talking about. I guess Jake Paul has to, if he's going to take a real punch from Mike Tyson, he might as well get paid for it, right? And I'm pretty sure Mike is not doing this for the money. He said so. He said as much, even though I'm sure it's a nice to have. So we're going to talk a little bit about this fight. It's not going to be long. We're not going to be here all night. Probably be here for 30, 40 minutes. And there's an article that was written back in 2020 called Mike Tyson, Boxing and Destructive Capitalism. And we're going to go through that because there are some things in there that I want to talk about. It's an interesting subject written obviously by a deranged Marxist, socialist. So the fight will be on Netflix. My issue is boxing, I think, has a huge problem. MMA has the same issue where they try to drag the fights out. And so the fighters don't actually get into the ring until midnight. The show starts at 8 o'clock, but the fighters don't actually get into the ring until midnight. I hope Mike take a nap. Take a nap, Mike. Go to sleep at about 8 o'clock, and then have somebody aggressively wake you up at 11:30. You'll be in a pretty pissy mood, and maybe you'll put this kid on his back pockets for God and the rest of the world. I don't have nothing against Jake Paul, really. I don't got nothing against him or Logan Paul. I think a lot of their phony disruptor, influencer garbage it's all a work. They became famous and rich through YouTube and decided to use their fame and wealth to get into other hobbies that they're interested in. They're grifters. looking for other things to get involved in. That doesn't mean that they're not good at stuff. I think Logan Paul is a great wrestler. He's really good at it. Jake Paul is, I guess, a respectable boxer. He hasn't gone out there and embarrassed himself. He's clearly on the juice, though. He's massive for a guy his size. So he's clearly on something. Mike may be on something too, but I'm pretty sure nobody cares at this point. Again, he's 60. When you look at what the Paul brothers have been jumping into, they've been doing this whole disruptor gimmick. Logan Paul launched Lunchly, a Lunchables alternative product that was then filled with mold, mostly because they used real cheese and then found out that real cheese molds very quickly. So they're learning lessons as they go along, I suppose. But when you have money and not much else going for you and plenty of time, and these boys got rich very young. Again, Jake Paul was only 27. These guys got rich very young. And they got rich without really utilizing too much talent. They got rich through their own popularity on YouTube, which I guess is a talent. I don't mean to disrespect them too much. But now, back in the day, if you got rich young, you just traveled the world and betted as many winches as you could find. Now, when these guys get rich doing streaming, they want to do stuff like race Olympic athletes, box professional fighters. They want to do crazy stuff like go to South Korea and get arrested because they're rich and young and bored and they've got nothing else to do with their lives. But it's an interesting twist to either take bumps in a wrestling ring or to get punched in the face by Mike Tyson. These are very interesting, dangerous risks that they decided to take. And I'm very impressed in the two Paul brothers for doing that. Well, look, man, winches are all ages. There's winches today. They call them baddies, but they're winches. It's not right to go and bed winches these days anymore though, because you end up like Diddy. You end up like R. Kelly. You get rich and famous as a young man. You travel around the world, and next thing you know, you're sex trafficking. Even though you ain't did nothing but, bang some chicks and buy a couple of bottles of baby oil. Now all of a sudden you're a sex trafficker. I'm only half joking there. We know Diddy did a little bit more than that. But ultimately, there's not much here for Mike. It's a win-win for both sides. If Jake Paul gets knocked out, then so what? He got beat by Mike Tyson. He's fucking Mike Tyson. And he made $40 million on a show that he promoted. It's not that big a deal. It's a win-win. If Jake Paul wins, it's a win-win-win. Then you made $40 million and you beat Mike Tyson. If Mike Tyson loses, it's not a big deal. He's 60. And it's a win-lose. He still loses a fight. I would imagine this is actually going to go on his real record. And he's going to, but he's still 60. So people are going to excuse it because he's 60 years old. And they think that he's fighting for money and legacy and all these sorts of things. But can you really tarnish Mike Tyson's legacy? We're going to play that clip of him talking to that young lady about his legacy. We're going to play that clip too. But at 60, really, who cares? Athletes go for too long. That's what I want to talk about when we get into eventually the article. I want to get to the article probably a little bit later. But the Paul brothers, like I said, these guys, this I Show Speed and Kai Cenat, all these dudes are super young and they're fabulously wealthy, more wealthy than young people should ever be for not having much talent or doing anything special, and they don't know what to do with it. So they're going out doing weird things. I saw that I Show Speed kid, he challenged an Olympic runner to a race. Like, where do he's bored. All right, there's only so many video games you could play at one time, for God's sake. You have to start doing, and it becomes a perverse incentive as well. As you start doing stunts, you start doing weird things. You have to start ramping it up. The stunts have to get bigger and bigger and bigger in order for you to make more money. And that's what's going on with Jake and Logan Paul. They're just doing big stunts to make more money. Why else would you, as a guy with very little athletic background, decide to be a professional boxer? And you have no legitimate boxing training. And then people keep asking Jake Paul, when are you going to fight a real fighter? The answer is fucking never. Because he realized he's hacked boxing. He's realized freak show fights are more interesting than legitimate fights. Because if he gets knocked out by Mike Tyson, so what? Look at how these guys like Anthony Joshua, when he gets knocked out, his career is virtually fucking over. Deontay Wilder got knocked out. This guy dedicated his entire life to boxing. His career is over. And these are fairly young guys. Not much you can do once you're a professional, and in boxing, that O next to your name actually matters. Jake Paul is turning this shit into entertainment. He doesn't. I doubt he cares about whether he wins or loses, but he's not going to put himself in a position to take too much punishment either. He's not an idiot. He's not going to go in there with, somebody who's hot in their prime and is going to end up walking around like Pete Puma for the rest of his life. He's not going to do that. He's not going to go out there and volunteer himself for brain damage. Again, he went and got rich young. He doesn't need to do this. He's doing it for fun. He's putting this. It's like Gladiator, where Commodus wants to fight the gladiators. He just wants to get in the ring. But he doesn't want it. He wants it to look like a real fight. But it's not a real fight. And that's all this shit is. He's training and doing all this legitimate boxing stuff, and he's fighting MMA fighters and other influencers and shit like that. He's not out there trying to fight somebody in their prime. He wants to poison his opponents before he fights them. That way, if he wins, he still looks like he's great. And everybody will want to come see the next freak show fight. He's not going out there to get jackhammered in the head. This is probably going to be the most dangerous thing he participates in. But, like I said before, he's going to have to increase his profile eventually. Mike Tyson bit on this one. This is probably going to be the biggest fight Jake Paul will likely have, unless he can get the legitimate heavyweight champion into the ring. Maybe he can get somebody like a Francis Ngannou to fight him next. Maybe. I keep forgetting the name of the guy who beat Tyson Fury. It's right on the tip of my tongue, but it's slipping my mind. But he's not going to fight anybody who's in their prime. You can forget it. These guys are participating in some real dangerous shit. And they have to continuously up the ante in order to get more money and get more views. And they're competing against each other. They probably have a shared fan base, but at the end of the day, they're competing against each other. If you stop doing dumb shit and start trying to live a normal life where you just play God of War on stream all day, then most people are going to get bored with you and leave. So go out and do some stupid stunts. Go out and run around. What's the name of that weirdo that's running around in South Korea? Go do shit like that. It's uncalled for. And it kind of fits into the article about, predatory capitalism. Because a lot of these guys are what they call in YouTube internet space, they're audience captured. And audience capture, what that means is that your audience pretty much is driving your content. You're doing things to not piss off the audience. You're doing things, the audience is controlling you. You're not controlling them. And so when you see an audience capture YouTuber, typically he will take positions that don't make sense because he doesn't want to risk running off subscribers and stuff like this. So these guys do the same thing. They're audience captured too. Once you get used to having that kind of money come in, and all these guys are rich and they have tons of money. They can go wherever they want. They're popular beyond belief. They don't want that to stop. So they're incentivized to do stupider and stupider things. This is a real Commodus moment for Jake Paul, where he's going to fight. He's going to get into the ring and fight the old gladiator, but the guy's going to be 60. So it's relatively safe. He's not going to fight a younger, more in shape, in his prime boxer. It's not going to happen. You can keep asking him, but it's not going to happen. Alexander Usyk, that's absolutely the guy who just beat Tyson Fury. Jake Paul ain't going to fight him. He could probably, if he offered Usyk $20 million, Usyk would fight him tomorrow and probably wipe the floor with him with ease. But it'll be a lose-lose for Jake Paul because, one, nobody knows who the fuck Alexander Usyk is and therefore will likely not pay to see the fight. And two, he's definitely going to lose. It means he's definitely going to get hurt. And he doesn't want to do that. So he's not incentivized to fight anybody who's legitimate. Not to say that Mike is not legitimate. Just saying Mike is 60. Even if he knocks out Jake Paul, it will not be anywhere near what it would have been in 1989 or 1991. It was not going to be nearly the same. So Jake Paul is going to make out like a bandit. He's not likely to end up with any serious brain damage. And he's young enough that if he is knocked out, it's okay. Well, Mike Tyson is so old that even if he is knocked out, well, he's 60. If he fights to a draw, that's a victory for Mike. It's a bigger victory for Jake Paul if he can survive I think the rounds are 8. It's 8 rounds. I don't see Jake Paul fighting Canelo Alvarez. I don't see it. It doesn't make sense. It don't make sense to me. So we're looking at this situation and we're saying these guys they got all this money, all this time. They don't know what to do with themselves. They're out there going to destroy their lives. But Mike Tyson, a lot of people think that he's going to embarrass himself. He's going to embarrass his family. That's not the way he's looking at it. Mike Tyson is in a situation where people keep poking the bear. They want him to fight. They keep asking him to fight. So now he's going to fight. He's said numerous times that he didn't really want to fight. He didn't want to be the guy that he used to be. He said this stuff over and over again, and people just will not let it go. This kind of falls into the arguments of the video when we get to it. But I want to play some clips in the build up to this fight from Mike Tyson. And Mike has been next level on this thing. Stamina is one thing. Like I said earlier, I hope Mike takes a nap before he does this. Just go to bed at 8 o'clock and have somebody wake you up at 11:20. Just don't try to get up and get one last workout in. Nah, just go to sleep and wake up and do more. Okay, let's get into some of Mike's interviews. There's 2 I want to play specifically. And these are very telling. This is the first one about his children watching him fight.
Important ones are your family. Your kids are out here. Everyone's coming in to see you on Friday. What does it mean to have family with you?
Well, it's the family's everything. But my kids, to my children, I'm nobody. But that night they're gonna find out their father's very special.
This man is motivated. He's more motivated than he was when he fought Roy Jones, I think. I think he's looking far more motivated than he was when he fought with Roy Jones. I'm definitely concerned that he might be overcommitting. And an overcommitment might lead to him burning out if he can't knock out Jake Paul within the first 2 or 3 rounds. Then Jake Paul might just dance around him for the next 5 and it goes to a draw, or Jake Paul wins a decision or something stupid like that. I don't know about Jake Paul's technique or his fighting. I've seen him knock out Chris Lieben. Chris Lieben was a jabroni in MMA. I hate to break it to you, it wasn't a great showing. At least I think that was Chris Lieben he knocked out. But it ought to be an interesting thing. But this is the most interesting one before we get into the article, is Mike Tyson's conversation about legacy and what he wants his legacy to be and what it means to him. This is very telling. And reminder, just before we get into this, the young lady that's interviewing him is like 13 or 14 years old. So she's a very, very young lady. Why is the sound never working?
It's an opportunity for kids my age to see the legend Mike Tyson in the ring for the first time. So after such a successful career, what type of legacy would you like to leave behind when it's all said and done?
Well, I don't know. I don't believe in the word legacy. I just think that's another word for ego. Legacy doesn't mean nothing. That's just some word everybody grabbed onto. Someone said that word and everyone grabbed on the word, so now it's used every 5 seconds. It means absolutely nothing to me. I'm just passing through. I'm going to die, and it's going to be over. Who cares about legacy after that? What a big ego. So I'm going to die. I want people to think that I'm this, I'm great. No, we're nothing. We're just dead. We're dust. We're absolutely nothing. Our legacy is nothing.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. That is something that I have not heard before. Someone say that as an answer.
Can you really imagine somebody say, I want my legacy to be this way when I get dead? Why do you want somebody? You think somebody really wants to think about you? What's the audacity? I think I want people to think about me when I'm gone. Who the fuck cares about me when I'm gone? Or my kids, maybe, or grandkids.
True.
Kids.
And again,
Mike the Philosopher is hilarious. I was introduced to Mike the Philosopher in the Tyson documentary from very, very so many years ago. I may actually watch it again and do a review for the channel. Mike Tyson is very interesting. I'm very interested in like heavyweight boxing, like Jack Johnson and Muhammad Ali and Floyd Patterson and Joe Frazier and George Foreman, that era of boxing usually. So I'm not really much of a boxing guy. But this young lady she's fried. This guy says, we're dust, we're dead, we're nothing. Who the fuck cares? And she's like, okay. She's like, okay, I guess. I'm floored by this. Because only somebody like Mike Tyson could come up with that. And this is the same Mike Tyson who defended Muhammad Ali not too long ago when Floyd Mayweather was running his mouth talking about how, he's better than Muhammad Ali and all this stuff. So he has a conception of legacy. He just doesn't want to get wrapped up in it. And there's something healthy about that, about realizing that when you're gone, you can't control what people think about you, and that some people won't think about you. It's impossible for somebody the stature of Mike Tyson to just die and nobody cares. People will care. you know. And there's like there's a religious element to it where it's kind of like you do want to believe that there's some kind of afterlife. And I'm not sure what Mike's religion is these days. I know he joined the Nation of Islam many years ago. I don't think he still participates in that. There has to be if people who believe in the spirits and believe in heaven, they may be shaken to the core by what Mike Tyson just said. You know, you're dust, you're dead, you're nothing, because they believe in an afterlife. You know, and they believe that if you live well, not only are you remembered on earth for your good deeds, but you also go through the gates of heaven. Like, this is too deep for a 13-year-old. Like, what are you doing here? But what he's trying to say is he doesn't want to force people to think too much about him and what he did in his life and how he lived, etc. Doesn't really want to force that issue. And he's old enough to realize that you don't control that anyway. You know, once you're gone, everyone's going to remember mostly your heyday. You know, nobody remembers that Joe Louis, was doing pro wrestling and was engaged. I mean, and Mike Tyson ended up like a lot of boxers. He made a lot of money up front. That money got snatched by either promoters or the United States government. And now he's living somewhat comfortably. He has his popularity as a celebrity outstrips the money that he made. And so many guys in Mike Tyson's position, when they got older, they were running restaurants or had somebody else running restaurants. They had somebody using their name to run restaurants. I mean, I think Jack Johnson did it. Muhammad Ali did it. Champ Burgers. You also had what was that? I'm right on the tip of my damn tongue. A lot of boxers, a lot of former boxers did it. But you also had boxers like Primo Carnero who went into pro wrestling. You had, George Foreman, clearly he went into put his name on the Foreman grill, even though he had nothing to do with the creation of it. It was just a marketing gimmick. Once you make all that money up front, you're not going to get those kind of paydays for the rest of your life. And it's understandable that when you're 60, the life that you lead or led up to this point is unsustainable. It's unsustainable. And so we go into this article. This article is written by a guy named Andre J. Gee. Mike Tyson, Boxing and Destructive Capitalism. Randomites, Volume 5, Abolish Celebrity. So we're going to go into this. Then it's a laugh and a half, let me tell you. This is the opening line. Capitalism is predatory, but not just towards the have-nots. Oh, capitalism is predatory. Okay, sure, if you say so. I guess it's not predatory to find somebody who's on the downslope, tell them that you did nothing wrong in life and that it's somebody else's fault that you don't have anything. That's not predatory. To try to recruit people by telling them that somebody else is the reason why they're poor. Even though in Mike Tyson's situation, he did give up a large share of his income to promoters. And athletes do this all the time. Agents, accountants. That's why one of my favorite documentaries, I said it before, is why athletes go broke. So let's get into this article. It says, I was watching Jamie Foxx talk with Fat Joe on his Jopra Instagram live show. Joe is playing Mike Tyson in an upcoming biopic and is probably going to do an amazing job as usual. You mentioned recently calling Mike, asking how he was, and the boxing icon replying that he was, quote, happy because, quote, I don't have a crazy amount of money anymore. The average person might wonder, why would someone be happy about that? Because, quote, I don't have any vultures around me anymore, as Fox recalls Tyson saying. When your life, you feel like your life has been ruined by these people, when it's their job to keep you active and distracted, because when Mike Tyson was making a lot of money, there was a lot of incentive to keep him happy. That means plying him with women, plying him with drink, smoke, whatever he wanted. He wanted a tiger, get him a tiger. He wanted, the fastest car around, get him the fastest car. He wanted to live in a castle, get him the castle. Because he's got all these material things while we steal all the stuff out we steal percentages for starters. And then we leave him with the tax bill. There was a great documentary around here on YouTube. I do this primarily off the top of my head, so I didn't look at it, but one of the there's a great YouTuber who did a documentary on Don King. Don King's life as a drug dealer who ended up killing somebody in a fight. He got out and became a boxing promoter. And Don King basically stiffed the fighters. And, it was basically like a record company deal where he promised you all this money because usually he had connections wherever the fight was going to be held that can guarantee certain amounts of money. And he would always, of course, dictate a larger cut for himself, and he would dictate a large cut of the cost to the fighter. So the fighter was living very well because they had all this material shit. Much like you see in record companies, where record companies will buy an artist a car, they'll pay for his house, they'll buy him jewelry, and then they'll just steal stuff off the back end. That's pretty much what Don King was doing. Is that he was setting Mike up with these huge fights. Mike was getting paid a lot of money. He was also getting a bunch of material stuff, but he was getting robbed. And when you make a ton of money, you attract a lot of people. And this is what Mike is talking about, because it's not just promoters and accountants and all those people, but also women. It's childhood friends. It's cousins twice removed that you hadn't heard from. When you're sleeping in the street and you got nothing, these people you can't find them anywhere. You can look them dead in the face, they don't know who you are. But then as soon as you're a multimillionaire, all of a sudden, hey, cuz. That can be aggravating. That could be a bit much. And when you're a young man, like Mike Tyson became heavyweight champion, I believe at 20 or 21 years old, that can mess with you mentally. And so you look at the wonderful poetics of somebody who got rich young, like a Jake Paul, versus somebody who got way too much, way too soon in Mike Tyson. And he blew it because he didn't know how to handle money. He didn't know how to handle money because he never had it as a kid. He didn't understand it. So we go into the second paragraph here. So many boxers are poor kids who learn the sport as an alternative to being in the streets. And then, like Tyson, they accrue millions of dollars battering opponents and have everyone and their mother trying to get a piece of their fortune. The marketing of being the baddest man on the planet gets out ahead of the kid's ability to handle that mythos. This is true also of King James, by the way. And me and LeBron are about the same age. He might be a little bit older than me. I'm not sure. But I remember when I first heard King James, and the guy hadn't dribbled a basketball in the NBA yet. He's given $100 million by Nike. I was like, that's a lot of money for a kid who's 18 years old and has never played a game of professional basketball. That's a lot. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of responsibility. You know, if it wasn't for, I'm pretty sure all these handlers, his mother, a bunch of other people worked really hard to get him to not screw that up. And I'm not saying that like LeBron is an idiot. I'm saying he's a teenage boy, and you gave him a check for $100 million. What if you were 18 with $100 million? You're gonna do whatever you want. There's nothing that's without, beyond your reach. And you wouldn't be wrong to do whatever you want to do. But people have to learn that, that is attached to work. And then there's a bunch of other people, got to take care of them. Got to take care of that golden goose. But Don King didn't always do that. So let's get into the third paragraph. It says, the quote, nothing to something narrative is popularly regarded as the American dream, but it's inhumane. It doesn't acknowledge that no one should have nothing. It doesn't consider the reality that poverty is the catalyst for so many self-destructive habits, none of which are quelled by merely having money. You are correct, sir, that the self-destructive habits are not quelled by having money. The poor quite often develop habits that lead to them being poor. Mike Tyson is one of those people. He spent more than he made. He was financially illiterate. He let people who knew more about business take advantage of him. But what the fuck does that have to do with no one should have nothing and that the American dream is inhumane? It's inhumane to want to not be poor? Everybody can't be rich. This is what we mean by utopian thought processes. No one should have nothing. He had something, he just didn't have a lot. He had talent. He had discipline. He had people in his life that wanted to see him succeed. It took him a while to get there. He had a mean streak. He had a lot of things that helped him. He may not have had the money at the time, but he had a lot of other things there. He might not have had a family, but he had a lot of other things. And sometimes the non-material things are the most important things. Because, especially in Mike Tyson's case, when he got the material stuff, all the it factor stuff that he had went away. He was mean, vicious, determined, focused, and then he got rich and he gained weight. He was doing coke, I think the day before, coke and drink and laying up with chicks, the day before he lost to Buster Douglas. He wasn't focused anymore. He wasn't disciplined anymore. All these stuff that got him where he was, he flipped it because he had gotten the financial wealth that he was looking for. So your utopian concept that no one should have nothing doesn't fit anywhere in the world. There's nowhere on planet Earth, even in an episode of the Jetsons, does not everybody have a flying car. It's just not realistic. So it's like, compared to what, my guy? Compared to what? So he continues by saying, and what happens when it's over? When there aren't $100 million marketing efforts invested into feeding your sky-high reputation, all the people who fueled the flight disappear and you crash. Mike Tyson has devoted the latter part of his life to the eternal work necessary to heal from that experience. But he's still struggling. He's healing from that experience. He's healing from being taken advantage of. He realized that his ego is the reason he was able to get taken advantage of. He realized that while Don King was dangling car keys and keys to mansions over here, he was sticking his hands in his pockets. He's healing from the fact that movie stars wanted to bed him, and then they want to divorce him and take half his money. That all these chicks want to have sex with him, and then they want to hit him up for child support. Friends, family, entourage, business partners, all these people betraying him. That's what he's healing from. He's not healing from being rich. He's healing from being taken advantage of, being betrayed. It's just regular old boring ass betrayal. People that he trusted, he found out he couldn't trust. Didn't matter if he was rich or poor at that point. If you think you can trust somebody and then you find out you can't, it doesn't matter what your economic status is, man. But what happens when it's over? That's a good question. What does happen when it's over? Well, you have to live a normal life. And you either go one or two ways. Either you disappear into nothingness, like a lot of people do. A lot of people, their heyday is over, and you show up for some kind of reunion, or you show up for some kind of event. You know, they bring you to the middle of the ring, and you wave. Heavyweight champion of the world. You know, Joe Frazier. Joe Frazier lived a very normal life after boxing. You know, nothing special. No commercials featuring Joe Frazier. At least I didn't see any. Outside of his fights with Muhammad Ali and George Foreman and guys like that, you didn't see much of Joe Frazier. You know, he had to live a normal life. The heyday was over. I don't think that that's a traumatic experience. I think it probably was for Mike Tyson because he was so young and because he was betrayed so viciously by these people for so many years. But he's a very, very rare case. You know, for some people who become famous when they're young, they become almost encased in amber. They call it the JJ syndrome. I don't know if you guys know this, but it's like Jimmy Carter from Good Times. That he kind of is JJ in everything he does now. Every time he does a commercial, he's kind of like, Dynamite! You know? He can't grow out of being JJ from Good Times. And you see that with child stars a lot. There's some really good. There's like a Batman villain named Baby Doll who's the same way, right? She was a child star, and she had like dwarfism or something like that, and she stayed a child. So even like 20 years later, she was still the same age and same size and everything. Webster was another one. He had that before he passed away. You know, Urkel fought against it, which is why everybody's so upset at him for not wanting to do the Family Matters reunion. He was fighting against being Urkel for the rest of his life, which was smart on his behalf. Sure, it killed the show, but it probably saved him, because who knows, he might be 40 some odd years old still trying to be Urkel today. And guess what? It's not cool when you're 45 years old and you're still trying to be Urkel. So Mike Tyson still trying to be the baddest man on the planet at 60 would have been pathetic. Him realizing that he's older, he doesn't have it anymore, it's a little bit different. A good example of this is Ken Shamrock. Ken Shamrock is a really good example of he didn't know when he was no longer the world's most dangerous man. Shamrock continued to fight. Even when he couldn't last 2 minutes in the ring, he still had a belief in his mind that I'm Ken fucking Shamrock. No. No. You're not Ken Shamrock anymore, bro. It's over. It's over. You ain't got it no more. All right? You know, just imagine you always was a great singer, and then you go out there and you start hitting bad notes, and everybody's like, ooh, it's rough. But you, in your mind, you still think you still got it. Mike Tyson doesn't seem to have that level of ego. He just knows that person that he was, that got him to that point, that person still exists. It's within him somewhere, and he's fighting against it. Oh, Gary Coleman, you're right. I knew got my dwarfs mixed up. I didn't know Webster was still alive. Okay. So I didn't know Webster was still alive anyway, but I'm pretty sure. Okay, Gary Coleman. So you have these was he a dwarf or a midget? Like, which one is that? Never mind. Let's get back into this article. He spoke about it in his poignant edition of Hot Boxing Podcast with Sugar Ray Leonard. He says, I was an annihilator. It's all I was born for. Now those days are gone. It's empty. I'm nothing. I'm working on the art of humbleness. That's the reason I'm crying, because I'm not that person no more, and I miss him. Sometimes I feel like a bitch. I don't want that person to come out, because if he comes out, hell is coming with him. That's amazing. He's realizing and struggling not with being poor, but with the monster that he had learned to capture and to utilize to make his wealth. That's what he's struggling with, because it's not useful to him now at 60 years old. That competitive edge, that desire to hurt people, the frustrations and the fury that was within him as a young man growing up on the streets with nothing but pigeons, it's not useful to him anymore at 60. And he struggles with people trying to bring that out of him, wanting to see that out of him. DMX was another one. Great example. He's a perfect parallel to Mike Tyson. In his later years, DMX would do interviews, and he would say, people used to always tell him, like, why can't you be the old X? Why can't you, make another It's Dark and Hell is Hot? And he would say, I was smoking crack when I did that. To tell me to go back to do that, to tell me to go back and be who I was when I did it. And he was telling the fans, look, I'm not as good as I used to be, because I'm not the person I used to be. What was going on at the time is not what's going on now. You can't go backwards. And a lot of people who are humble and smart, those people realize that they can't do that anymore. And I remember listening to a very recent DMX album. I forgot. I think it's Undisputed, I think it was called, where DMX was the worst part of the album, if we're being honest. He sounded winded. Now, some of the songs were really good. Go listen to the song Cold World, where he did okay, but it was mostly the young lady singing and the production and the whole shabazzle around him that carried that over the threshold of being a passable album. But DMX was washed. And it was sad listening to it, because I hear that he's trying to be something else. He's trying to tap into being DMX, at the same time growing and struggling with sobriety and a bunch of other stuff. He didn't get rich young, though. So it wasn't the exact same thing with DMX, but close enough. Close enough. He's more like, he's the Mike Tyson of the rap game. And I think we're lucky to have Mike Tyson still around. So he's got two more paragraphs. He says, quote, is it worth doing that to people? Capitalism is inhumane, as is the concept of celebrity. Stardom isn't something you should have to recover from. From corporations to agents, managers, to media, to fans, we have no idea how to treat stars humanely. They're regarded as a mere piece of consumerism. And then he starts talking about the Roy Jones fight. This thing is 4 years old. Now, I actually don't have too much of a problem with the final sentence there, in terms of celebrities being regarded as a mere piece of consumerism, especially when you take into account that, I'm just going to say it, Kamala Harris was paying celebrities for endorsements. Okay. Yeah. they were basically commercials, right? You see Cardi B and all these people. She claims she hasn't been paid, whatever. It's basically a commercial. And as a celebrity, everything you do comes with a price. Rihanna's not going to just tweet about something or post about something that she likes because her Instagram is so closely watched by her fans that if she promotes something, the fans are going to go out and get it, even if she's not being paid to advertise it. So what's going to happen is somebody's going to control her Instagram account. And if you see Rihanna tweet something out, please believe there's money behind it, especially if you see a label or something, because everybody knows how this works. So I agree that celebrities are treated as mere pieces of consumerism because that's the whole point of being a celebrity. That's what influencers do. They influence people. That influence can be positive. It can be negative. That's just what it is. It's just what it is. You can't help that. In the socialist utopia, who are the influencers? The politicians? I don't think I want that. The politicians don't necessarily have to be good at anything. And we know that people who could be celebrities are, they're not necessarily talented, but I could also ignore them. I'm not 100% immune to celebrity endorsements. Nobody is, but I'm pretty much 70 to 80% vaccinated from bullshit celebrity endorsements of things, whether it's books, movies, TV shows, etc. I let it roll off my back. Commercials, once I learned the story of commercials and all that kind of shit, I don't pay that shit no attention anymore. It's all just marketing bullshit, right? But it works sometimes. I've bought plenty of books because people I watch on YouTube have said, oh, this book is good for yada, 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 and I went and bought the book. Rihanna can't sell me no fucking book, but maybe some guy on YouTube who's quoting a book that I liked will get me to buy the book. I've bought comics and manga based off of what other people online have said. So I'm not completely vaccinated against it. But for the most part, I know that if a celebrity is pitching something to you, they probably would pay for it. And that's actually a big issue when it comes to like some of the YouTube channels that engage in like reviews of comic books and stuff like this. Oh, everything's great, it's all wonderful, and you find out they're getting free copies and they're getting flyed around to these big events and they're being invited to stuff. You're like, wait a minute, or do you just work there? And it's we're in the wrestling space. We say the same fucking thing. Oh, Meltzer showed up at the Jericho Cruise. What are you doing there? You don't go to nothing. You don't even go to WrestleMania. It's around the corner from your house, but you go to the Jericho Cruise. Wait a second. Very interesting stuff. But the idea that capitalism is inhumane is ridiculous. Because what are you comparing it to? Compare it to what, brother? The reality that there's nothing you can do to fix your own world? That your life is stuck because of who your parents were? That your life is stuck because of what you do for a living at this moment? I do agree that we probably should not put so much stock into celebrities. But celebrities, while somewhat a creation of capitalism, is not entirely a creation of capitalism, because there were plenty of societies that were monarchies or even communist societies that had celebrities. They were just different kinds of celebrities. It might have been philosopher kings, or the princess was always a celebrity. The prince, the king, is a celebrity. They are the ones who are influencing the rest of society. Like bound feet in China, right? All the young princesses used to break their foot and bang their feet So all the other young women started doing it because it was a sign of having small feet was supposed to be a sign of a woman of good stock or something like that. I read a book called Bound Foot in Western Dress. I had to read it for class. It was about the Chinese culture of bound feet. It was very interesting. It was that stupid feminist class I had to take. I had to learn about women in Arab countries and women in China and women all over the world. That was awful. But it was enlightening. And you learn that, celebrity and influencers, they can sometimes push people to do destructive things. And so I'll agree with that. But when you say that capitalism is inhumane, I don't understand what the issue is. And when you say like stardom isn't something you should have to recover from, mediocrity and being invisible is the vast majority of, especially what young men have to deal with. And this is not something that most people think about. Sure, it's terrible to be a celebrity and then to not be a celebrity 10 years later. For you to be somebody like, I don't know, Pauly Shore, who used to make a bunch of movies, and then now nobody can pick you out of a lineup. Nobody knows what you look like. I used to rule the world. I used to be in movies and yada, yada, yada. Yeah, now nobody knows who you are. 25, 30 years later, 40 years later, nobody knows who you are. What was that guy, Ernest, who used to do a bunch of movies when I was a kid? A bunch of people have no idea who that guy is now. He's been dead for a while, but they don't know who he is. And I'm pretty sure he wasn't that famous before he died. Most people are okay with your fame fading. Like, again, you have occasionally people who try to hold on to it forever because they don't want to miss out on the money and the opportunities or whatever. And then you don't want to end up like Amanda Bynes. Like, nobody wants to end up like that. But the opposite side of that coin is the vast majority of young people who can't get noticed no matter what they do. And the mental health of young people who feel invisible is far worse than Amanda Bynes or Britney Spears and Kanye West and people like that. These young people who they didn't get enough hugs, no matter how good their grades were, mom and dad just never were around. That's when they started cutting themselves because that's how they get attention. That's when they started doing, self-destructive things to get people to notice them. They threaten boyfriends and girlfriends that they're going to commit suicide if you leave me. A lot of young boys floating around here practically invisible because they don't have any money. So girls not looking in their direction. They're sitting at home frustrated, don't have a girlfriend. Don't have anybody to hang out with, to play video games with, to talk with. They don't have any friends. That's a life of misery. And you know how the saying goes, it's better to have loved and lost than to never have loved at all. It's better to be rich and famous for 5 to 10 years than to never have been rich and famous at all. I would rather be MC Hammer at sometimes. Okay. I'm not going to say that because I don't think that's true. I don't know what his life is like. But MC Hammer made a lot of money, short amount of time. That money went away. It doesn't change anything. People still like his music, believe it or not. I just saw him recently tweet about another song of his going 4 times platinum or something like that recently, like this month. So a lot of these people are in unique situations. Everybody's got their own suffering. And it's not unique to celebrities. It's not unique to 16-year-old boys. or, you know, women or men or blacks or whites or anything. Some people are going to suffer because they were popular in high school and then they got to college and nobody cared about them. You got the Al Bundy syndrome. You know, you was the man in high school. Now you're nothing. You're a shoe salesman. Who cares? People have that. The Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite. You know, people have those sorts of issues, and you got to deal with it. And then there's people who never had friends, and all of a sudden they got friends. They don't know what it's like to have a bunch of friends. They don't even know what it's like to be a friend. And now everybody wants to be their friend. They don't know who to trust. They're paranoid. Might even be a little bit brusque with people. Too legit to quit. That's the song that just went multi-platinum or whatever. So when people write ridiculous articles about capitalism being inhumane and all this other horse shit, it's like, bro, compared to what? Compared to what? You just have it in your mind that socialism is humane. It's nothing humane about starving people to death, bro. And I know you don't want to starve people to death, and it's just an accident of your ideology being really bad, you know. But that's just what it is. You starve people to death. Nobody has ever starved more than the socialist countries have starved people to death. All right, I've been ignoring you guys for like an hour, so let's get into some of these articles, some of these guys' responses. BEP says socialism is humane until daddy stops paying for rent. Socialism is 100% humane until there's no food. Then what? You're eating your dogs. Then you're eating your neighbor's dog. And then, you know, maybe you're killing and eating your children, your own children. You're engaging in cannibalism. This is horrible stuff. Pawns to Prizes said, you think you want to take a roundhouse kick to the face with these bad boys on? Forget about it. WG Phil says he feeling called out. Yeah. There's a lot of young people out there like, you're not alone, man. There's a lot of young people out there like that. You said Amanda Bynes got abused. A lot of them did. That's the consequence of being a celebrity, is that people take advantage of you. That, and one of those ways is sexually. You know, especially for young women. There's no doubt in my mind that Britney Spears was probably abused too. I mean, it is what it is. Yes, today is the anniversary of Eddie Guerrero's death. Actually, I think, was it yesterday or was it today? Josh Wentz says there were the same kind of film, music, etc. celebrities in the Soviet Union. They were all just exclusively Russian. Yeah, you know, and they probably belonged to the party, right? The party made sure that they stayed on top because they had to, you know, produce the message. AJ3 says Democrats are scooping podcasts and content creators for ally Trump in the election. Yeah, well, everybody should know that was going to happen because Trump very adeptly used certain podcasters and certain influencers to get his message out and to reach young people. And what they didn't realize is that a lot of the stuff they made fun of him for is what younger people liked. Like once he won the election, I started seeing an inordinate amount of people doing the Trump dance and the what they call the shimmy. I saw people doing it all over the place. Like the whole dance party with Beyonce meme. I'm not sure if that thing was made to make fun of him or to promote him, but it got him in front of everybody's screen for 90 seconds. As you know, that guy put a beat to it. So that's one of the things that people didn't realize, and that's something that they don't really get, is that part of why Trump won is because of who he is, and you can't duplicate his personality, and that's going to be a problem for the Republicans later. That's like it's a problem for the Democrats to try to reproduce Obama, You can't reproduce people who have charisma and personality. We're going to go back to boring politicians in a minute. It's going to be awful. You know, that's like when we had Ronald Reagan, and then we had boring ass Bush, and then we got Bill Clinton, and everything was like crazy again. Like he was kind of a boring politician, but he's charismatic and funny and fucking interns and playing the saxophone and all this kind of stuff. And then we had George W., who was, you know, inept. He was kind of dopey in a way, kind of funny. And then Obama is like through the roof in terms of charisma. And then, of course, Trump is like a shade above or below Obama in charisma, depending on how you look at it. And then we got boring ass Biden. And we're going to go back to Trump. And we'll see what happens after Trump. I'm pretty sure it's going to be boring politician after Trump. It's going to be some really boring motherfucker, like that JD guy, who I don't dislike. But he's a boring politician. He's a well-adjusted, you know, take his kids to school, make pancakes in the morning kind of guy. There's not going to be any crazy scandals or anything like that. And part of American politics is engaging in the persona of the president, you know, being wrapped up in the president's personality. And if he doesn't have a personality, then you're pretty much going to be in trouble. So I expect there to be some kind of wildly charismatic Democrat to come out of nowhere and probably take the White House next time. Josh Wentz says, or they want to get a job with the company they ever had positive reviews for. Oh, yes. And we're talking about that. There's a lot of those guys. There's a lot of them, especially in the wrestling space. Look, I don't begrudge people who want to be influencers and want to parlay that into opportunities. I used to see people go after the guy, Rob, from Comics Explained, because he used to get free stuff from DC, and they was flying him around to do interviews in the DC Cinematic Universe. And people were really jealous. They were very mad at him. And I was like, I'm sure that guy worked very, very hard to get where he is. And he told stories of having, like, you know, the entire top room of his house covered in comic books. He had to sell them and get rid of them because he had no room for them anymore. And he took that and turned it into something that pretty much pays for itself in terms of how he runs his channel. And if he's a DC Comics shill or a Marvel Comics shill or whatever, just take his channel for what it's worth. You know, it's entertaining listening to him talk about comic books, but if he suggests something that doesn't look like it's going to be interesting to you, then don't buy it. You know, just be aware. You know, it was kind of like that before Comic Historian passed too. R.I.P. It was a similar thing with people talk about him being a shill. But that's just kind of how influencers work. Again, everybody's incentivized to take the next step. You know, you start out doing it for the love of the game, and then you start getting paid for it. Now it becomes a job. Now you want a raise. So however you can do it to get more money, that's what you're going to do. That's why it's better to do things for the love and not for the money. Because if you do it for the love, you'll never get tired of it. You'll never get bored of it. This is why streamers, they talk about how hard and they cry about how streaming is. Because you started out doing it for fun. Now you do it because you have to. And what are you going to do if you stop? And I saw that, what was that? Was it Hassan or Destiny? I think it was Hassan talking about how hard streaming is. Look, anything can be hard if you're forced to do it for 8 hours a day. You know, it doesn't matter what the fuck it is. You know, if you have to do it for work, it's going to get boring. You know, it's going to suck ass. But you're going to do it because now you've made it your life. Josh Wentz says celebrities were influenced before that was even a concept. That's correct. Ike Don says 50 Cent couldn't tap back into Bulletproof Vest 2003 50, so music stopped being his main focus. Yeah, like there was a lot of, that was a sharp turn on 50 though. And I actually appreciate him for that, because instead of doing music that was half-assed, he just kind of does one song and everybody thinks he still got it. So he'll do like the theme song, The Power or something like that, and everybody's like, 50 still got it. It's like, he made one song for this TV show. I don't think you want to hear a whole album of 50 Cent anymore. But it was okay because he could end up like Ti. And what the fuck does Ti do? I don't know what Ti does anymore. Does he host a podcast? I heard he was doing a comedy tour. It's like, get the fuck out of here, Tip. I don't know. Get out of here with that bullshit. Ike Don says Shawn Michaels is a good one. He couldn't be cocky wild HBK from the '90s, so he got his life together. Yeah, I mean, some people, man, they hit the wall. They say the wall is like, they think it's a woman's only thing. Men hit the wall too. When you're not young and athletic anymore, you can't get away with certain shit. When you're fresh faced and you're a knucklehead, like Randy Orton is a good one. Young, fresh faced knucklehead. People put up with him because he's incredibly talented. But when you're 38, it's not funny anymore. I used to tell when I used to work in a group home, I used to tell boys that all the time. I used to say, bro, what you get away with at 15, 16, nobody thinks it's funny when you're 21. All that carjacking, B&E, it's all he's being mischievous when you're 15. When you're 22, you're a hardcore fucking criminal. They're going to throw you in butt-pounding jail. It's a completely different ball game. You're going to have to grow up, And sometimes it really takes like a solid life-changing event to get men to turn around. But eventually they do, or they die, or they end up in prison, one or the other. And in a society where you are free to make your own decisions, we got to let people fall. That's the only way they can learn. If you try to protect people from all the negative outcomes of their life, they'll never actually learn. People become better through struggle, and they have to do it themselves. Josh Wentz says, funny, I watched Bill Burr's Epidemic of Gold Digging Whores bit yesterday. It feels coincidental. Don King presents Sissy Slap Fight. Yikes. WG Phil says, Jamie Foxx has been working on this biopic for almost 10 years. He should give up at this point. There's already one by Michael Jai White from the 90s, and that one came out in 2021. Did Jamie Foxx put on the weight to do this? Because he's kind of skinny to be Mike Tyson. Josh Wentz said he had multiple seasons of the Mike Tyson mysteries too. Yeah, and he had a video game. He had his own video game, Mike Tyson Punch-Out. For years, he wasn't involved in any of the boxing games because he was so big, he couldn't afford to put him in the games. It was much like Michael Jordan for a while there, where he was big enough to sell a game on his own. And then, of course, that all went away, and he started becoming part of these games. But Mike Tyson is always going to be a great brand, and that's what he is. He's a brand. That's what celebrities are, and that's why I say the socialist guy, Andre J. Gee, has a point. We make celebrities into brands. And that's also, when Mike Tyson said, like, what's his legacy? That's what his legacy is. The legacy is going to be the brand of Mike Tyson. Who he was as a person, his exploits, the crazy stuff that he said, the fights, the rape charge, the post career, all the stuff that he did, some of the wild stuff that he was participating in, all that stuff is going to be his life. That's his legacy. It's not always bad. It ain't always going to be good either. He's going to be an interesting figure, just like, Jim Brown or something, but maybe not as influential as Jim Brown. Robert Jr. says, I hope we don't have a repeat of what happened to Ric Flair last year, but this time boxing. Oof. Oh, that would be terrible if we're being honest. That would be awful. But I don't think, at most, Mike Tyson will get tired and not come out for a round or something. I don't expect him to get knocked out or anything like that, anything embarrassing like that. Too embarrassing, let's say. He may miss some punches that he would have nailed 25 years ago, but I don't know if he's going to quit on the stool like, Roberto Duran or anything like that. That would suck. I certainly will be watching the fight, though. I absolutely will be watching that. His last fight did almost 2 million views. 2 million buys. Mike Tyson did. So when he fought Roy Jones, 1.6 million buys. I saw it said, and these are for 2 washed fighters. This one's free on Netflix. I expect a lot of people to watch it. It's probably gonna crash Netflix. It's gonna be great. Stone Mexican said, I love Mike Tyson, but I wish he wouldn't do this fight. I know it's still Tyson, and in my heart, he's still the champ, but he's old. He needs to chill. I think he's just doing it for the money, man. The $20 million, if that number is true, why not, bro? $20 million, you're probably not going to get hurt that bad because, look, even if the kid can punch, if he could punch for real, he would fight somebody for real. So I wouldn't be too concerned with that. And at most, you're 60 years old, so even if you lose, it's not that big a deal, you know? But who knows? Mike might be a glass cannon. It might be a situation where he can still punch, but he can't take a punch. Josh Wentz says, this is why elites of the past made secret societies. Too much time and you can buy anything you want. Start praying to the giant owl in the woods. Right. The Baphomet in the woods. We're going to start, praying to it. That's weird shit. They do weird shit, man. Drink animal blood and all this kind of dumb stuff. Johnny Somali, he hardly making any money for that shit. Well, he's not going to make anything when he sits in prison. Butt pound in South Korean jail. Dipshit. Jimmy Hale says, I remember the Floyd Mayweather versus Logan Paul fight. Floyd had to hold Logan when he clipped him. He tried not to knock him out. I don't think Jake Paul's going to get lucky. If Mike Tyson nails him, he's going to let him go down. I don't think he's going to let him stay up. I don't think so. Big Armada says, that need for relevance is addictive to influencers. It absolutely is. It's addictive to people, period. We see regular folks who can't handle getting, 100 likes. They think they're a celebrity. These OnlyFans bras, these baddies. They start taking pictures in their bikinis. Next thing you know, they're topless. Next thing you know, they're bottomless. And you're like, oh my God. They're going hard. Josh Wentz says, can we say the Paul Bros or the Tony Khans for retired combat sports athletes? Probably. I think that's a fair assumption to make at this point. I'm surprised he hasn't asked like Lennox Lewis for any money. Like, Lennox Lewis, you want to fight? That's dumb. Let's see. We got some more comments here. Leith Elzy says, have you heard about the controversy around Denzel gay kiss? I did hear that there was going to be a gay kiss in that movie. And that Denzel actually did it, which is heartbreaking because I remember him saying before that he would never do anything like that. The Jordan Super Nintendo game sucked. The Jordan Bird game was not bad though. I liked that when I was a kid. AJ3 says, you remember Hiroko Suzuki from WWE Smackdown? He's now a politician. Oh, that's interesting. Pawn surprises everyone since Bush era has been the NWO puppets. Trump's the first outsider type in a long time. I truly believe that as well, but you can't be alone and no man is an island. So expect there to be these New World Order, World Economic Forum motherfuckers in the cabinet and in key positions so that they can stop Trump from screwing things up too much. He's going to get some damage done because he's already said it. Pretty much the Department of Education is cooked, so he's probably going to be able to take down something. But I expect like some uniparty assholes to get in there, and it's inevitable. It's not possible for him to do what everybody wants him to do by himself. He's going to need a team. He's going to need a pretty big goddamn team, and the team that he's got is not going to be enough. Like Tulsi and RFK and Elon Musk and these guys, they're going to limit the damage that these people can do. And if anything, you're going to end up seeing a lot of Republicans trying to mitigate the damage that Trump tries to do to the institutions, which is, good if you like the institutions. It's bad if you don't. Like when he was talking about seizing the endowments the other day of universities that engage in DEI, they're not going to let him do that. He's going to get sued. It's a smart play, It's a great play. And it's something that, you know, a lot of people on the right have been talking about doing is seizing the endowments. I can almost guarantee you that's going to end up in front of the Supreme Court. Gozu says, didn't the 49ers do the touchdown, do that dance? Yeah, they did the Trump dance. There's a lot of college football players that have been doing it too. I wouldn't be surprised if they start hitting them with 15-yarders for that shit. Not the Al Bundy part, but the lack of monetary value. Yeah, that's the nature of the business, man. You know, all you gotta do is fish in your stream. You'll be okay. Pawns the Prize says life is suffering. People got to man up and enjoy the good and the bad. Yeah, you gotta take it. You gotta take it as it comes. Like my thing is, there are people who go through really terrible shit. People have cancer and they lose like all the muscle that they've gained. All of a sudden, they age 20 to 30 years. They lose their hair. Confidence goes in the toilet. Body no longer belongs to you. You know, you taking all these absolutely toxic drugs, and you still have to wake up tomorrow. You know, so everybody's got to go through something. It's tough. You know, everybody's struggle is going to be different. Everybody's situation is going to be different. You got to try to get people to, I don't want to say accept bad things, but accept what you can change, you know, and try to influence people to be their best selves, even when times are hard. If you just start telling people that, you know, times are hard and it shouldn't be that way, they'll just be like, yeah, I shouldn't have cancer. Like nobody should have cancer, but it happens. Fuck. The sooner you can accept it and start fighting against it, the better. Just like being poor. Yeah, it sucks to be poor. But guess what? You can fight against it. You can overcome poverty. You can overcome being invisible to women. You can overcome, you know, a lot of issues. And, you know, there's a certain section of things that you can't overcome, you know, having Down syndrome or something like that. Ain't nothing you can do about that. But, you know, there's a lot of people who have personal physical problems, and you have to learn how to overcome it. You have to smile anyway. You know, to pull the Willow Nightingale, you have to smile anyway, bro. Have I ever heard of the 4B movement? I have not, actually. So I will be watching the fight. Smackdown will be on too. I don't expect Tyson's going to make it to the ring before Smackdown goes off the air, so I'll probably watch it after Smackdown. I'm not really enthused to watch Smackdown anyway, if we're being honest. But AJ3 says, I wonder if you ever got to interact with anyone from the FBA not named Tariq. No, but I am familiar with Yvette Carnell, who is she's a dipshit too. WG Phil says 4B is the femcel movement in South Korea. Oh, that's tough. That's a tough one. But yeah, I saw a couple of videos from Yvette Carnell back when I think she used to be friends with Tariq Nasheed. I don't know if they had a falling out or something. I don't know how that goes. But I think she was one of the first, like, I think she was a Trump supporter in 2016. I think I don't know about today. I haven't seen her pop up on my timeline anytime soon, anytime recently. So I don't know what the hell she's got going on. I think so. Maybe I ought to look, see what's going on with her. Anyway, thanks everybody for stopping by. I appreciate it. You guys have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you guys later.